Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and now powered by our first sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You all have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I am your host, Royce White, and I am here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, for episode number 45. Episode number 45. Um, this is a special edition episode, everybody. Usually I go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, unless we have, an extra guest episode, and we're going to have a lot of those coming up in the near future. We got the great Kenny Mauer scheduled, a longtime NBA legend, NBA legend ref. What was before he was ousted for not accepting the vaccine. He was the most tenured NBA ref. We got some other people coming up as well. Tomorrow we will have Jason Whitlock, the great Jason Whitlock, for his second appearance on Please Call Me Crazy. We're excited about that, as always. Shout out to the entire Fearless Army. We appreciate the Fearless audience. I appreciate my time on Fearless with Jason, and we're always happy to host Jason in a longer format here on Please Call Me Crazy and talk more about what he thinks and sees out there in the world. But we got a lot of people coming up in the near future as well. A lot of guests on the horizon. We're just trying to lock in dates and get scheduling down. We want to bring you the best guests possible, so it takes time to fit people's schedule. But today is a special edition. And again, I want to say thank you to the entire War Room posse, right? Mo Bannon, Grace Chong, the great Steve Bannon, and everybody else who makes the War Room machine run. We had a great time last night. I think we had a great time watching the live stream of the Donald Trump CNN town hall. And it was so monumental that I had to do a special edition episode today. I had to address this specific situation, and it couldn't wait. Now, obviously, we have a family and friends episode tomorrow with Jason. But even if we didn't, I wouldn't have waited, And this is the beauty of having the freedom of a podcast where I can choose when and where to chime in on the things going on in the world, because it just couldn't wait. It's just too good. It's way, way too good. I mean, the 2024 Donald Trump presidential campaign is now underway, ladies and gentlemen. And there couldn't have been a better kicking off than what we saw last night. I mean, if this is any indication of what this presidential campaign is going to be, number one, the American people are in for a real treat. As far as the entertainment value of it goes, I know elections are as serious as it gets, and we have the most dire situation in our country right now where the outcome and result of this election is going to be consequential for many, many years to come. But there is a certain entertainment quality to it. And Donald Trump did not disappoint yesterday. Wow, he was sharp. He was sharp. He was there. He was a stark contrast to the man that now sits in the White House, that currently sits in the White House, and his almost inability to coherently navigate through any conversation, let alone one with real tough and hostile questions. And that's what I want to start off talking about. I mean, we're going to go 90 minutes just talking about this Donald Trump town hall. That's what this entire episode was meant for. But let's start off in talking about the line of questioning. I mean, the questioning from that scam of a moderator was so bad that there were moments when I actually considered maybe CNN is playing for the home team. Maybe CNN is actually with us. Maybe CNN is so tired of its ratings plummeting in the absence of their greatest scapegoat, Donald Trump. Maybe they want to get him back in. I mean, there was no other explanation other than the fact that this woman went totally rogue and should be fired. I mean, that's how unprofessional the moderation of that town hall was. That's how unprofessional and hostile and rude the moderation of that town hall was. And if it's not one of those two, if CNN isn't playing for the home team and they don't want Donald Trump back in for business purposes, or if this young woman didn't go rogue, if she didn't go rogue on her own to handle that moderation like that, then the only other thing I can think of is that the mainstream media industrial complex, the liberal left mainstream media industrial complex, has completely lost its anchors in this political landscape. They've gone completely tone deaf. And this is a beautiful sign of things to come for all of us out there, all of us nationalists, all of us Christians, all of us populists, all of us anti-establishment people who hate to see what has happened to our country, who hate to see the way things have been handled by our political, corporate, and financial elites. This was a monumental evening because when you were watching it, I don't know if you could feel the energy, but if you were watching it, you were jacked in. If you're in tune with the energy, and I hate to say energy because it's such a woke term, but there is a universal energy. If you were jacked into that energy last night, you could feel the momentum shift in real time. The momentum shift to Donald Trump in terms of the public sentiment. That's what happened last night. That's exactly what happened last night. CNN, through their own doing, through their own line of questioning, through their own handling of the town hall and the way that the moderator approached it, fundamentally shifted Donald Trump's public image and likeness. I'm just disappointed more people didn't see it. I can't wait for the red-pilled alternative media sphere, the manosphere, all these different alternative communities that are popping up online, especially social media. I cannot wait for them to clip this town hall. I cannot wait to see the amount of material that comes from this one town hall is absolutely incredible. Incredible. A well that will never run dry. In fact, I make the argument right here today that Donald Trump has won the 2024 election. That in the first public moments, in the first public outing, in the first public appearance of this 2024 campaign, Donald Trump's performance was so superb that he has all but solidified his candidacy for sure, but his overall victory in the 2024 election. But let's get into the line of questioning because, you know, for everybody out there, I want you to understand this. This liberal white woman who was the moderator is exactly what's wrong with this country. And on this show, if you're seeing the show for the first time, if you're coming because the headline had Donald Trump and it's relevant news, right? So the algorithm might move it up the trough just a tad bit, not so much that it goes viral, but just, out of happenstance, right? If you're just seeing this for the first time, understand that on this show, I get down on the conservatives more than anybody else. Because I think ultimately any problem solving starts with us. Anything that we choose to do, any endeavor we choose to go on, it starts with us. It starts with our own discipline, our own commitment, our own understanding, our own decisions and choices. So I've been getting down on the conservatives for weeks, but God, when you liberals provide an alley-oop, do you ever? I mean, it's perfect. I mean, we're right on the fast break and you make eye contact. You let the whole arena know what you're going to do, and you lay the ball up off the glass. Oh, so nice. The placement is perfect. I mean, it hits the glass. It hits the glass with just the right amount of touch, and it pops straight into my line of elevation. The ball drops straight into my path to the rim, and I got it, and my teeth are, and I'm yelling because it's so perfect. I know the outcome, and boom, I break the glass on you woke fucking liberals. Are you people stupid? Who is following these liberal white women? This is what's wrong with the country. This one town hall is the paragon of what is wrong with America. Now, don't get me wrong, your beta males and all these other scientific technocratic elite, these manic, psychopathic, anti-human death cultists. Yeah, we know they're back there. We know they're pulling the strings. But understand where they put the battery. Understand who has the battery in their back. And it's these liberal white women. This was the Rockefeller Foundation being the biggest philanthropic contributor to the women's rights movement. That became the white liberal women's rights movement. That became the Me Too movement. And we got everything in one town hall. I can't even believe it. It was so perfect. I mean, this opulent, posh, yuppie, neoliberal, neocon, globalist, metropolitan, omnisexual, wine society white woman is exactly what's wrong with the country. She runs her mouth, she runs her mouth, she runs her mouth. She asks questions she doesn't even let you answer. She asks questions that she doesn't even let you answer. She thinks that she's the sole authority on your mind and even furthermore, your body, what you can do with your mouth. She thinks in this, crafted little arena of a town hall that's being put on by CNN because of the corporate role of her employer. She has taken sole authority over the evening and over the direction of the conversation and the dialogue and what someone can and cannot say. She was a shining example last night of big tech and big media's very, you know, very desperate, but ultimately in vain attempts to censor the truth. And she showed you what censorship looked like in real time. The impulse towards censorship, the impetus towards censorship. She was showing you. Every time he would go to answer a question they wrote the questions. They wrote the questions about January 6th, about the elections, about Jean Carroll, about the whole deal, about the war in the Ukraine. They wrote all the questions. They opened up the conversation to all of these areas. And then they wouldn't even let them answer. And you got to ask yourself, if they're so confident, it's really a bastardization of you at home. And I'm talking to you Democrats. The conservatives, just go ahead and take a victory lap today. I'm going to get back down on you because it's not over. The victory is not won yet. It sure was a good day. Oh, it was a great day. In fact, it was such a great day. I'll show you here. I'm in my socks. I kicked my shoes off today. I'm usually in war mode because I'm a militant like that. I'm a little wacky when it comes to being methodical and meticulous in my approach to the politics game, and by as a consequence, the podcast game and everything I do right now, because we're at war. But I got my shoes off today. That's how good it was. Okay, so conservatives, go ahead and take a lap. Go ahead and take a victory lap. You won the day. You won the evening. Oh, you liberals. Oh, I can't even. Why? Why? What you've done is you've actually gone out in the public now at one of the most critical junctures of the 2024 election. It's the starting point. It's the kickoff. Everybody's going to remember this. Everybody's going to remember the start of the 2024 election. At the kickoff, you showed the American people that you have no faith in their ability to see what's true and what's not. And that is how you feel about the American people. Only your solution, your default position in not trusting the minds of the American people, the ability to see truth in the American people, your default position is, well, we'll just lie to you. Or we'll just try to control the narrative 100% and make it easy for you. That's not how the truth works. That's not how knowledge works. That's not how learning works. And your reflection and your projection of it in your politics is a reflection of it in your leadership of the American education system. Oh, we're going to get down to it today. This is my line of country. This is right up my alley. Your projection, your lack of faith in Americans and the American people's ability to see the truth is reflected in your leadership, your overall leadership of the American education system. And this is why slowly but surely you have watered down standards so young Black children no longer have to reach a certain academic level of learning to go on to the next level. They're just passed through because you know what? We don't need you to learn. We don't need you to critically think. All we need you to do is become a working adult that will vote Democrat because you won't know any fucking better. And you think we all don't know any better. But I'm going to tell you this. At a rapid rate, Black people and all American people, especially the working class, are starting to see the scam. And oh, it is glorious. It is beautiful. It has the touch of divinity right on it. I mean, I was just sitting there watching yesterday going, woof. This is the straw that's going to break the camel's back right here tonight, right now. This very town hall. Everybody else may not have seen it like that. But you have to understand momentum. You have to understand momentum. Momentum was already on Donald Trump's side. It was already there. And they just gave it a boost like you could not imagine. And the main reason is these white liberal women, these sort of posh, opulent, posh, yuppie, metropolitan, omnisexual, Me Too advocates, wine society women. These people have no soul. They have no sacred honor. No, they have a soul. You take that back. We all have a soul. Theirs is surely damned for all the worst reasons. And we need to pray for them. But right now, the reality is the reality. We have to see it for what it is. This is the condition of America. The woman you saw in the white suit, whose name I don't even want to say. It's like, she's not even a real person, and it's by her own choice. It's by her own thinking. It's by her own actions that she's not a real person. So her name doesn't really matter. She's Norma McCorvey. She's Norma McCorvey, right? She's every liberal white woman activist you see everywhere you look today. She represents the motif of wokeism to a T. And she thought she was being objective. I mean, she tried to play the role in her head. She probably thought that she was being objective. But you could almost hear her counter arguments had they been in a different type of environment where she was allowed to say her opinion freely. And she actually couldn't help herself. She couldn't help but say her opinion freely as often as very often throughout the entire thing. Now she represented it as the corporation's opinion or the American people's opinion or the federal government's opinion or the expert's opinion or whoever else, right? The court's opinion. And that's what I want to say. Listen, you liberal white women need to understand this. Now, let me explain it to you well. Us black men, us real black men, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck about your attempts to say nobody can question the elections because we've always believed that the elections are rigged. So that one doesn't work on us. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. In all reality, we don't give a fuck about January 6th. We don't. We don't really give a fuck. Why? We're used to shit getting out of control. Shit's out of control in our cities all the time. And it was manufactured by you for the most part. Oh, yeah, it was manufactured by you. Your anti-gun laws gave your hyper security state, communist style gun laws gave birth to Chicago. It gave birth to New York City. It gave birth to Los Angeles. Okay. These are of your doing for the most part, not to mention the educational, scam that you've run on the people and the spiritual scam, but that's for another time. So we don't give a fuck about January 6th. We don't give a fuck. You care a lot. We can tell you care a lot, but we don't give a fuck. And you hedging on these issues is exactly why the black community is going to make a large exodus in this 2024 election, larger than any time in recent history. We don't give a fuck about some white woman tricking the corrupt court system, which you would all agree are corrupt on most days. Okay, the entire liberal ethos is predicated that the entire system is guilty. Right? The whole gamut of liberalism, neoliberalism, wokeism. The two go together. They make it seem like the neoliberal neocons and the far leftists are different people, but they're really not. It's one narrative to varying degrees. The entire gamut runs a narrative that the whole system is guilty, except for when it benefits you. And you're so arrogant and narcissistic, you think that we are too stupid to see the illogic in that, to see the incoherence in that, to see the contradiction in that. We see it. We don't trust the courts. We don't trust the courts if it's a young black man in the neighborhood who got caught on marijuana charges. We don't trust the courts if it's somebody who had whatever the case may be. I don't know. Could be anything. We don't trust the white collar crime. We don't trust courts when it comes to white collar crime, and we damn sure don't trust a court when a white woman comes up and says she was raped 25 years ago. We don't trust it. I'm sorry. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck what Jean Carroll has to say. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. We don't trust the court system. And for you to try and pretend like the court system, the American court system, the American justice system has this grand credibility only when you need it to for your political position or your arguments, you insult us. You insult us. We don't give a fuck about Jean Carroll. Fuck Jean Carroll and her story. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck. Sorry. We don't give a fuck about the war in Ukraine, other than you seem hell-bent on sending all manners of money to the Ukraine, just like you sent all manners of money to Iraq and Afghanistan to win a war. That was a key point she made last night that we're going to talk about in depth. To win a war that would almost surely mean mutual destruction and some type of nuclear exchange, because you're death cultists. We don't give a fuck about that Ukraine war. We don't give a fuck about you trying to make it seem like Donald Trump is friends with Vladimir Putin or whatever other story, or he didn't answer the question right about a definitive victory in the Ukraine. I actually agreed with his answer. I actually thought, out of all of the commentary around Ukraine, my position's way more radical than Donald Trump's. And you better hope for Donald Trump. You better pray for Donald Trump, because he showed last night that he's far more sane, logical, and middle of the road than many, many people who are speaking about any number of geopolitical or political issues, me included. You better pray for Donald Trump, because after Donald Trump's reign, it's going to be people like me. Yeah, and your face is going to melt when you hear the fucking shit that we have to say and we think, okay? Your face is going to melt right the fuck off. He actually answered it pretty reasonably, as the president should. He answered it very presidential. He said, I just want the death to stop. I just want the killing to stop, right? I don't really care about the narrative. I don't really care about who has an axe to grind with who. I just want the killing to stop. I want the war to end. Beautiful, beautiful. And he's spot on. Absolutely. If we can negotiate a peace, we should negotiate a peace. But some of us more radical people are looking at the writing on the wall and coming to the very obvious conclusion that there are certain individuals on the board, certain players in the global community that are pushing for nuclear destruction, a nuclear war, that are pushing for the war to go on at all costs. Is it the neoliberals? Is it the Democrats? Or is it their neocon masters? I don't know. The military-industrial complex has always had its hands on the reins of the Democrat Party since they blew Kennedy's head off. Since they killed RFK, right? Since they killed Martin Luther King, since they killed Malcolm X, they've always had their hands on the reins of the Democrat Party, platform, puppets, and narrative, right? Why would this posh, yuppie, liberal white woman who hasn't seen a hangnail in her fucking life, let alone physical combat of any type, talks loud, but a strong gust could blow her right the fuck over? Why would this woman have the audacity, the temerity, the balls, fake balls, right? Posh, yuppie, liberal, LGBTQ trans balls, if she has them. Why would she have the balls to try and promote and propagandize a war that she has no plans on fighting in? This is the opulence that has come to plague this country. This is the honor, the sacred honor, the national honor, the remembrance that we should have for our military men and women who gave their life for posh, yuppie, liberal, metropolitan, omnisexual, intellectual, wine society, white women like her. When we think about our flag and remembering those troops who gave their life to defend the freedoms in this country, we should remember her face. We should remember her face and her snarky fucking attitude towards war. Some hyper academic political worldview towards war, right? Some intellectualized view towards war. She's not ready to take a fucking IED, right? She's not ready to take a fucking round in the chest. She's not ready to take mortar fire or anything else. So why is she promoting that we should only accept a Ukrainian victory, a total Ukrainian victory? By whose standards? By whose definition? The Ukraine? Is the Ukraine's definition of victory in this war really the definition of the Ukraine? Or are there other players behind the scenes that have created that definition for them? Who do you people think Zelensky is? Let's just be honest. Who do you think he is? Really? Feel free in the chat. Who do you think Zelensky is? Popped up out of nowhere. Used to be on television. Used to be on the third-rate version of television that all these opulent wine society people here in the West and in America operate our politics and government from now. He's the same guy. He's Sean Penn. He's Jon Stewart. He's, pick somebody. He's Bono. He's Bono, but a lot less famous, right? In the Ukraine. And they have to have a total victory, which would entail reclaiming Crimea, which Russia says under no circumstances they'll give up, that they'll go to nuclear war. They've threatened to go to nuclear war already multiple times. And we just laugh in the face. Well, yeah, he's always going to say that. He really won't do it. He won't do it. He won't do it. I mean, are you willing to let these white women, these snarky, bitchy, little Karen white women, play chicken with the overall health of the environment? I thought the environment was important. There wasn't a single question really about the environment yesterday, mind you. I want to just throw that out there in the outset here. 30 minutes in, there wasn't a peep about the environment yesterday. Oh, no, because we're on the warpath. We're on the warpath. Why we can't talk about the environment? Because everybody knows. Nobody with any sense. Everybody knows that anybody with any sense can't square how a war, and potentially a nuclear war, would not be cataclysmic for the environment and the climate. I mean, you talk about the very few things that mankind could do to fuck the earth up for ourselves, not for the earth. The earth will be fine. The earth is resilient as hell. The earth was here long before we were, and the earth will be here long after we're gone, most likely, unless we find an even bigger way to fuck it up. But one of the few ways mankind could fuck the earth up for ourselves is nuclear war. And this woman's just out there, she's out there pitching nuclear war. Like it's a banana split. These are the yuppie liberal women that are going to take this country down. Please, I beg you, black people out there, please do not follow these people. When you follow these people, and maybe you don't even really know you're following these people, but you're following these people. These people are the figureheads of the Democrat Party and platform. And I don't care how much you try and nestle your way underneath them or ride on into the party underneath them, ride into the room underneath them, representation. Your Jean Pierre's, these are the white women that they idolize. These are the white women they're trying to emulate. These are the white women, the liberal white women that they want to be like. These are the liberal white women that are responsible for the decay and the decline of your communities, of your standard of living, of the power of your dollar. All you black folks out there talking like you want reparations, why in the world would you take cash reparations from an omnisexual, metropolitan global elite that plans to tank your currency? And not even that the currency is actually going to crash, it's going to crash in theory. And if it crashes in theory, then they can justify why it's crashed on paper, and now you won't be able to get your bank deposits, right? And America will default. That was another point of contention last night, the debt ceiling. And that was a tiny one. They want to keep too much talk around the debt ceiling because they know that's Donald Trump's line of country. So, and in a lot of these where they know they didn't have the right position, they try to throw the hurt curveball out there, see if they could trip him up. And when they couldn't trip him up, she quickly would cut him off and try and divert to another question or divert to the crowd. They try to use the crowd as the scapegoat. Oh, we got a lot of people here tonight that want to ask a lot of questions. Well, let them ask the questions. Well, why don't we just let them ask the majority of the questions? Why not? If CNN was a network of the people, why not let the people, we the people, if they believe in democracy, if they believe in democracy so much, and the overall well-being of the populace, why not let the crowd ask the majority of the questions? Why was so much of the conversation dictated by CNN's, I don't know, board of directors, writers, investors, stakeholders, shareholders? I don't know, executives. I don't know who's running shit over there at CNN. Rachel Maddow? I don't know. Yuval Noah Harari? I don't know. I don't know who's in their little brain trust. Who wrote these questions? Can we get CNN to give the public, be transparent, CNN, be transparent. Who was involved in writing these questions? Who? Tell us. Tell us. Was Don Lemon, did you phone Finocchio Don to get a beat on the anti-Trump rhetoric? We know he's your favorite go-to guy. Or maybe you called Joy Behar and those guys over at The View, because we all know it's the same television network, right? It's one little tiny, posh wine society entertainment and television network. Who'd you call? Just tell us who wrote these questions. We talk about the debt ceiling, and they scurried away from it really quick, right? They this is funny what they're doing with the debt ceiling. And I thought this was, for me, as a debt hawk, because I'm a genuine debt hawk. As a debt hawk, it was one of the best moments. Donald Trump simply looks at her and says, well, listen, we better default now because we're going to default later anyway. We have to save the country. And what he's really saying is they're prolonging this economic and financial crisis as a fugazi, as a way to string you along and eventually be able to justify or validate why they either save you from your fate or they crash it and let you burn. But all the power ends up being in their hands. What Donald Trump is saying is right now, if we throw the power back to the people and let the people show their resilience, then we can actually save the country in the long run. Very, 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 very important leadership. Very important leadership quality. The people have to decide. And before the people can make an honest decision, they have to be told the truth. And the truth is, no matter how long they kick the football down, no matter how long they kick the can down the road, the debt is an issue. And I don't even think it's a genuine issue. Let me be clear. I'm a debt hawk. But the real danger of the debt is the fugazi that the American people believe in the debt. We believe that this debt is owed to some people who are coming to collect. The only people who are coming to collect or that are hanging the debt over us are traders that live right here in our own country, who are more metropolitan and global than they are national, and they're willing to sell our debt to the highest bidder when the time comes. And they'll let America die because they have no allegiance, they have no national honor, and they have no sacred honor. They're willing to say, China, you're the new economic hegemony. America's done. Do we get where's our 40 acres and a mule in China, right? They already have their retreat and their getaway planned, right? In posh aristocratic Europe, which was another one of my favorite parts of the whole town hall. And talked about the Ukraine, and Donald Trump quickly gave him a bop left hook. We're not protecting Europe. Bop. I loved it. This was class. I mean, we should have had to pay for this, ladies and gentlemen. He was so good. He was so on point. We should have been made to pay a price to watch it. Now, most of us wouldn't have paid, which is probably why they couldn't do it, because, we wouldn't give any money to CNN. But Donald Trump should have set up an alternative platform where people should have had to pay to see that, like pay-per-view. I mean, that's pay-per-view television right there. Bop, left hook. Bop, left hook. Bop, left uppercut. Hook. Bop, bop. Ukraine, Russia. We're not protecting Europe. We're $200 billion in. They put $70 billion in, and they got way more. I mean, come on. He just came out and said it. We're not going to protect Europe. I think Europe should kick in. Pay up, suckers. That's what he said. A week or so out from the coronation of King Charles. That was great. That was amazing. Incredible leadership. Incredible clarity on the whole issues, and balls of steel. I mean, balls of granite balls, tungsten balls that I recognize from my own sack, okay? Donald Trump has these kind of balls, and they hate that. And nobody hates it more than these posh, yuppie, liberal white women. I mean, it's with the ways that she ask a question. Well, stop, Mr. President. That's not true. She's an embarrassment. She embarrassed you all. If you really want to stay beholden to that party for some odd, strange reason, if you want to follow behind these liberal white women, obviously it's a free country. You can do as you please. If you do, at least, get back with your team, huddle up, because that was fucking embarrassing. I don't care what team you play on, but when you come out and shoot a basket at your own hoop, when you go out and you score 10 baskets at your own hoop, you would think that the team would bring you to the huddle and say, listen, we're subbing you out. You got to come sit over here for a little bit. That's not the image we want to portray. But we'll see. I mean, these liberals are so arrogant, and they're so invested that you love the material high more than you love the truth and logic, that maybe they think they can actually pass this off on you. Maybe the line of questioning at a subconscious level is so ridiculous as a form of test to see how much bullshit you'll accept, how much bullshit you'll take. I mean, that was crazy on so many levels. That was crazy on a number of levels. I mean, it was just outright outrageous. The elections, I mean, you could tell they had a real hard-on for the elections. Listen, the elections are not secure. They're not secured. That's the reality. And she really, really stepped in it when she said there was no fraudulent votes in Wisconsin. I mean, she really stepped in it. It's going to be hard for them to back that down. As the evidence starts to come out, continues to come out about voter fraud there in Wisconsin, or ballots that weren't, the chain of custody on certain ballots and other things, as that starts to happen more and more in Wisconsin, they're just going to run that clip back they're going to run that clip back on replay nonstop. There was no fraudulence in Wisconsin. I could see if she said Donald Trump didn't win Wisconsin, okay? if she tried to imply that whatever fraudulence there was didn't have wouldn't have changed the overall outcome of the results in Wisconsin in terms of Biden or Trump. But that's not what she said. She said there was no voter fraud in Wisconsin. There's voter fraud in every single state, especially here in Minneapolis. I mean, we have caught a number of people in Minneapolis that are connected to ballot harvesting. Okay, we caught them, like they've already been arrested. Okay, so this whole the election is secure deal is pretty telling of the overall impulse and impetus of this establishment. I mean, who do they think they're kidding? And more importantly, why are so many of you who were anti-big government, anti-big corporations, anti-special interests, anti-military industrial complex, why are so many anti-judicial system, why are so many of you cucking, right, shilling for the establishment with regards to this matter? It makes me think that your anti-sentiments are only related to your own political position. That makes you dishonest. That makes you unfit to lead. That makes you unfit to be involved in the democratic process. That undermines democracy. January 6th doesn't undermine democracy. You participating in the political process, in the democratic process, from a position that only acknowledges certain truth if it's advantageous for your own position, undermines democracy. Where is the sacred honor? There is no sacred honor in saying that our elections are 100% secure, especially when in 2016, you just admitted that they weren't secure when the shoe was on the other foot. How long do you think you can keep this up? Because people like me and the great Steve Bannon and the great Alex Jones and the great Donald Trump and the great Maj Toure and the great Jason Whitlock and the list goes on and on and on. We're not going anywhere. And I'll tell you now, you better hope and pray that you get Donald Trump and that he's able to quell some of the animosity and hostility towards the corruption of the establishment before the next generation of populists come in. Because we're not going to be as kind. I guarantee you that. Because if it was me, and everybody in my audience knows, if it was me, I mean, you could say this isn't presidential. That's fine. I'm 32. Okay, maybe over the next 6 years before I'm even old enough to run for a national federal government office like that, maybe over the next 6 years, I'll have some radical transformation in temperament. But today at 32 years old, the frustration I have with the traitors that have taken this country and planned on watching and getting rich off the slow decline of this country and eventually giving this country over to a totalitarian anti-God regime like the CCP, who I am today, I would have just told that white woman, shut up. Now, shut up. Shut up. Take that posh, yuppie, liberal, Karen shit on somewhere else. You're not fooling us. You're not fooling me. Donald Trump handled it as professional as you possibly could. He let her cut him off. He showed great patience with her. He showed very, very great. And you know what's funny about it? What he showed is the contempt, the resent, the sort of manic, rude, antagonistic, narcissistic behavior that men all across America have had to deal with from their radically feminized, and when I say feminized, I don't mean feminine, I mean feminism, their radically feminized wives. And that's why he just endeared himself to so many rational, insane Democrat men. And any reasonable Democrat women, liberal women as well, any reasonable women who were on the fence, who are independent. Any reasonable people who aren't completely indoctrinated were endeared by Donald Trump's performance last night. And I respect that. I admire that. I admire his composure. I would have been less composed. I would have been less forgiving to the rudeness. I would have been less forgiving to the attempt to sort of overpower him in real time, and the sort of joy that she seemingly took in doing so. right? Because that's another element of this posh, yuppie liberal, metropolitan, omnisexual wine society brigade, right? They sort of take the, you can see this sort of smirk, this sort of snark, you know, satisfaction they get from moments like that. Because what they really want, and what you could see, I don't know if you guys understand body language or not. I don't know if you guys understand nonverbal body language or not. But at the end, when they were standing next to each other, when they were standing, and the back and forth got contagious again, right? What she really wanted him to do was hit her. You could see it. You could see the I want to say the recipe for many domestic violence situations in America today. Today. And again, men should never put their hands on a woman. That's just, men are stronger than women. That's the reality. In fact, the biological scientific fact of men being physically stronger than women is why we have such zero tolerance in our court system for men who hit women. I mean, that's a clear distinction that's made. It's a distinction that's made so clear that it even pertains to men versus other men when it comes to court proceedings. Like if I'm 6'8", 270 and you're 5'8", 170, you now have some justification in using lethal force at a different rate than I would, because my physical size is a determinant in the immediate threat of bodily harm. So that comes from the difference between men and women. Understand that, okay? They just extended it to other men like, yeah, you know what? Some of you guys are tiny as hell too, right? You're tiny like a woman, so, you know, we need the rule for you too. That was the beta male using the woman to get protection against stronger men, and then taking the benefit from themselves, right? It's the beginning of the transgender movement. Now I'm just, oh man, the beta project. Listen, she wanted him to hit her. That's what she was doing. I mean, you could see in her body language, that's what she was egging on. She was looking at him and she'd brace a little closer, and she'd get a little closer when she spoke. She'd get a little closer. And then, you know, he talks with his hands a lot. The president, he talks with his hands and he moves his hands. And there was one moment where he accidentally nudged her with his hand. I want somebody to go back and clip this out if they can. There was a moment when he was moving his hands, just talking, kind of looking at the crowd, but he was so close to her that his fingertips kind of brushed her arm, and she made some big dramatic motion, right? That's what she wanted. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. And even more, they wanted him to make any aggressive movement towards her whatsoever. Any sign of aggression they would use. This is your Karen. This is Karen, ladies and gentlemen. I can't even think of the woman's name. Who was the woman that worked for the CIA, who's the huge women's rights movement advocate, who they now tout around? Let me check. Um, I forgot her name. She's the sine qua non of the deal. Used to work for the CIA. I forgot what her name was. Oh man. Come on. Oh, there he is. Gloria Steinem. That's Gloria Steinem. Former CIA operative, huge catalyst of the post-civil rights women's movement. And along that same vein, I mean, let's be honest here about what the whole linchpin of the town hall was for the CNN position. The CNN position was, number one, Donald Trump's a danger to democracy. If he's not going to renounce the 2020 election theory about corruption or rigged, it being rigged or voter fraud, if he's not going to renounce that, then he is proving he's a continued threat to democracy in the country. The second main point was the Gene Carroll. And you could see that in the post town hall coverage when they go back to the studio with Jack, with Tapper and Coop was remote, and then they had a whole panel by which, mind you, 3 black women. Right. They had to make sure they met their diversity quotas. Right? When they're in the executive room, in their little posh executive producer room, right? And they're looking at the panel. They got to count up how many black women they put on the panel. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. If you black folks out there think that that's in any way a sign of respect, a sign of acceptance, or a sign of equality, then you're fucking dumb. You're fucking dumb. You're a slave now. Don't talk about reparations because you still invite slavery. You invite slavery. As a matter of fact, as a general comment, all you black people who talk about reparations that follow the Democrat Party like puppy dogs, you don't deserve any fucking reparations because you show that you still invite slavery. You still accept slavery. How can we talk about reparations when you haven't renounced slavery itself? You're a slave. You're following behind your black women who you need physical affection from. You need to get laid. You're following behind black women who are following behind liberal white women who are following behind sycophantic, mad scientists, beta male, death cultists. That's the chain of command. That's the chain of command. Right? That's who you're following. So they put these 3 black women up on the panel and they come to Tapper, and Tapper right away goes, the entire crowd mocked the finding of the Jean Carroll lawsuit, where a jury of his peers found him guilty. You notice how they cuck? Do you notice how they cuck for the court process? Does anybody notice how all of a sudden the same Democrats who say the whole system is guilty cucks for the court process? In what world first off, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. In what world does a finding from a jury of my peers mean that I'm definitively guilty? That's that's kind of a. I mean, the whole justice system needs revamping. Let's just be honest. I mean, it's a weird, strange, sort of fictitious way to go about justice that really undermines it in the long run. And we've seen many times that it's undermined because again, just like the way we vote, the way 9 jurors think is largely based on where they live, what news they watch, how they grew up, how they were educated. So you see how the Hydra is put in the court system from the education system, right? In many ways. And if it isn't put in there by the education system, then it's backstopped by the media industrial complex, right? To undermine justice, to undermine the final outcome of judgment from a jury of your peers. Why do we give a fuck what 9 jurors had to say? Why? I mean, let's stop acting like 9 jurors don't get it wrong all the time or can't get it wrong. When the shoe's on the other foot and the jury is predominantly white, all the jury selection was racist. And that's why a jury of his peers found him guilty of RICO, of running a continual drug enterprise, right? The jury was rigged. The jury can be rigged, but the elections can't be rigged. You people think we're stupid, don't you? You CNN metropolitan omnisexuals think we're all dumb, don't you? Well, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not one of those Negroes. I'm not one of those black men that you can tell anything to and we follow behind it because we want to keep ourselves in the good graces and standing of the white establishment in the event that we will eventually be given an offer to sell out. Nope, I'm not one of those Negroes. Nope, not waiting for an offer to sell out. Actually, the offer to sell out I turned down. Matter of fact, I turned it down more than once. So I'm not one of those Negroes. And that's what you need to be worried about because those kind of Negroes are coming. We're on the way. Oh, we are making the march right now. We are making the march and we will be arriving shortly. And when we do, we will be knocking on the door. And when you come to the door, you will be faced with the truth. Yeah, the truth, because there is no price. The price of freedom is death. The price of freedom is death, right? We're on the way. So pray for Donald Trump to win. Pray that Donald Trump brings down the overall animus and hostility towards your shoddy, lukewarm, sellout, treasonous politics. Pray for it, because when we come, it's not going to be as nice. It's going to be nowhere near as nice as Donald Trump was to that young woman. We wouldn't have been that nice. I wouldn't have been so nice. I wouldn't have been so nice. I'd have said, yeah, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck. What the fuck you talking about? Shut up. That's bullshit. You got an agenda. We can see it. We can all see it. You got an agenda. You were sent here by your masters, by your slave masters, to push propaganda. This ain't a real dialogue. This is you guys trying to trip me up in something that honestly I don't give a fuck about. And to be honest, the people who vote for me, and increasingly a bigger number of people who will vote for me, they don't give a fuck about it either. They've seen who you really are. You're trying to uphold the illusion. Desperate. It's so desperate. It's like when you catch a woman cheating. When you catch a woman cheating and she tries to triple down on the lie, it's like you're caught. I come home. I love when I think it was it Chris Martinson who said it? Maybe it was Alex Jones. I think it was Alex Jones. Alex Jones goes, you come home and your wife is in bed with, you know, Alex Jones. You come home. It's like when you come home and your wife is in bed with another man. You don't need to know anything else. That's who the Democrats are. That's who the Democrats are. That's who we have found these people to be. We came home. We caught you in bed with 3 men. There's not really anything else we need to talk about. The only problem, the only thing we're waiting on is for the word to get around the camp. And you're trying so desperately to keep the word from getting around the camp that you're making it worse. Oh, you're making it worse. Not only are you trying to bring about some poo butt reparations deal on the back where you give a bunch of meaningless paper, okay, a bunch of meaningless paper to people who are radical materialists, black people who you condition to be radical materialists through Marxist education. Not only are you trying to run that scam, but you're trying to protect this Donald Trump narrative that has no legs. We don't care about January 6th. Shit gets hectic all the time where we're from. A lot of black people in the country were upset that the January 6th protesters weren't black. A lot of black people in the country said, why didn't black people do that? We should have done that a long time ago. I'm not saying I agree, but that's the real sentiment. If you want to know how black people talk when posh, yuppie, metropolitan, omnisexual, wine society, white women aren't around, that's how black people really talk in this country. Black people should have done that a long time ago. We don't give a fuck about January 6th. In fact, if anything, we feel a sympathy with the people from January 6th, increasingly. Now, we know there were federal officers there, and then you guys made sure not to mention that. The presence of the FBI and the security state during January 6th. That was another blatant misstep by the moderator. I mean, there was a line of questioning she could have stayed down. That would have driven home the point. But she was so erratic and manic and neurotic in her own approach that she couldn't even execute that. She couldn't even execute the narrative that they've been running the whole time. She couldn't do it. The moment overwhelmed her. Her hatred for Donald Trump as an expression of her overall hatred for men in general overwhelmed her. It consumed her. She couldn't stay focused. She couldn't stay on track. Like a Rachel Maddow would have stayed on track, right? I don't like Rachel at all. She's a goddamn sellout to the max, straight shill for the establishment. But at least she would have been able to stay right down the middle. Much better anyway. I don't know. Being next to Donald Trump seems to make these women a little batty. But she couldn't stay right down the middle. And the January 6th one was a great example where she goes, did you give the order? And Donald Trump says, listen, I offered to give them 10,000 soldiers from the National Guard, and however many they needed. It could have been 10,000, it could have been more. But I gave the offer of 10,000, and they only would have needed about 500 to stop, the chaos that went on that day. But I offered them. And she goes, "But you never gave the order." No, I didn't give the order because when I made the offer and they said they didn't need it, they were now in charge of Capitol security, and they were in charge of the security of that day. I wasn't in charge. I'm not in charge of that now. And yeah, if you guys say that it's your thing, if I go to run an event and there are two groups that are partnering on the event, and I say, hey, I got the drinks, okay? I got the food and beverages. And you offer to do the food and beverages multiple times, but I say, no, I got it. I got it. I even fight you on it. Because remember, the day of, they could have had the National Guard out there from the beginning. They could have had them there from the beginning. Why didn't they? Why did Nancy Pelosi not want the National Guard? If these Donald Trump supporters are so crazy, are so conspiratorial, are so out of control and violent, why wouldn't they want the National Guard out there to begin with? Why? That doesn't seem right. That doesn't make sense. And she kept saying, "Oh, well, he didn't give the order. He didn't give the order." Well, yeah, I didn't give the order. Right? I made the offer. You guys rejected it. That's it. And then before she goes off that topic, she goes, "I just want to make it clear that you never gave an order." It's like, who? You're not on trial, bitch. Bitch, you're not Gene Carroll. You're not on trial. Nobody gives a fuck about what your final little sound bite is before the next question. Bitch, get to the next question. That's how the next generation of smash mouth, black smash mouth populists are going to talk. We're not even going to play around. We're not even going to mess around with the thin veil of civility that Donald Trump is still beholden to. You better pray for more Donald Trump, because the next iteration, the next generation of politicians is far less civil. We're far less beholden to a time that was much more civil in this country, especially around political discourse. Donald Trump showed great leadership. He showed great composure. We should all admire it. We should all respect it. And you liberals should understand that the politicians like me are on our way. And we're not deterred by any imaginary base that wouldn't like to hear the profanity. We're not deterred by that. This bitch is psychotic. This bitch is a whack job. She was. And these are the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. This is what it is. And these are many people's wives at home who have been indoctrinated with Cosmo and Sex in the City. And then it's the Kardashians now, and now it's Ice Spice. Now it's Ice Spice the rapper. Or whoever the fuck else, I don't know. Pick one. Or it's Dylan Mulvaney. Oh, Dylan Mulvaney. Now women want to be Dylan Mulvaney. Now women are going to transition into men to transition back into women so they can be Dylan Mulvaney. I mean, you people are fucking psychopaths. And the beer drinking country. Oh, now there's a split in the beer drinking country. Now there's a split in beer drinking America and beer country. Every single region in America has seen Anheuser-Busch decrease since the Dylan Mulvaney ad. Let's see if they'll adjust. Maybe they'll just double down. I don't know. Hopefully they double down. But like I told you on Monday, if they double down and they start to see that they're clearly losing control, they're going to get desperate, just like this woman was in this town hall. Her temperament, her approach, her overall manic energy during this town hall is a great example of how desperate the elites are and how desperate the elites will become as they lose control of the narrative. And all it takes is one man with a set of balls to bring about that desperation. One man, Donald J. Trump, with the through the legs behind the back. Dunked it on white liberals' head. Oh yeah, if I was in office, this whole war in the Ukraine wouldn't even have happened. It wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't have happened. Be over in one day. I'll settle it in one day. Both countries. I know both of them. I know Zelensky. Zelensky. I loved it when he said Zelensky's actually the one who spoke on my behalf during the RussiaGate or the quid pro quo investigation. Oh, President, you were impeached. They always double down on their own groupthink, right? Oh, you were impeached for that. You were found guilty. You were found liable. They're always using the same system they say is guilty, the same system they say is completely guilty, wholly guilty. That same system they always use to double down on their own political position. And this is the greatest contradiction of the Democrat platform. This is the greatest contradiction of the liberal platform. You can in one breath say the whole system is guilty, and then at every turn you need to use the results from that same system to affirm your position. That would be called dishonest, guys. That's just a lie. That's just a blatant contradiction. That's an incoherence of logic. And these bitches are incoherent. They're manic. They don't even see contradiction. It's like all of you men out there, who live with insane women. Let's just cut the shit. Let's cut right. And there are a bunch of great women in the country. Don't get me wrong. There are a bunch of great women in the country, and there are a bunch of shitty asshole men, too. Don't get me wrong. And most of you cuck sellout motherfuckers don't have the spine and the courage to stand up in your own home and demand some goddamn respect and take authority. And that's part of the way this whole thing has gotten out of control in the first place. Many of them were in D.C. Many of these omnisexual cucks in D.C. let their wives run all over them like Bill with Hillary, and all of a sudden the whole shit is out of control. The whole order of things is out of control. There's no order. Why is there no order? Because there's no natural order. There's no natural order. It's not hard to figure out. When you don't have natural order, it's going to be hard to have political or social order. Duh. But for all of you men at home that live with these sort of psychotic women, you understand the dynamic. You understand that dynamic right there. That it's rules for me, rules for thee, but not for me. And everybody hates the Andrew Tates and the whole red pill manosphere that's popping up. Listen, it wouldn't be popping up if there wasn't substance to it. This isn't some freak. This isn't LGBTQ transgenderism. That's a forced, man-made, indoctrinated anomaly. That's a psyop. The manosphere rejection of transgenderism as a general cultural premise, as a general cultural phenomenon, is in effect our rejection of radical feminism. Because the transgenderism and the disorder, the discord, the chaos that has ensued socially around transgender psychology stems from the loss of order in women. Let's just be honest. Let's cut straight to the chase. Many relationships in America today are mediated by the guilty system, the guilty court system being law-driven in the advantage of women. No default divorces, child support, alimony, the whole thing. Women, by and large, through children, through childbearing, through one of the most miraculous and sacred of human human beings, one of the most sacred and miraculous things of the human species, reproduction, procreation, has been weaponized in every way against the man. Whether it be I'll get married and leave and take half of what you own, or I'll have a child and take the child away from you, or I'll have a child and get married and I'll get alimony way in order above what is reasonable financially or economically, and even all the way down to the most satanic part. I'm a woman, and if I so choose, I can kill your legacy. That's what the abortion fight is really about. It's women having the ability to kill a man's legacy. And I love how Donald Trump answered that question as well. I love how Donald Trump answered that question as well. And they went back to the studio and he ducked the question. He didn't answer the question. No, he answered exactly how he's supposed to answer it. I don't have to have an answer today. The results of my actions already speak. Roe v. Wade was overturned. It's going back to the states. And when I get back in office, I'll examine it some more and see if there's something else we can do for the pro-lifers. If there's something else, if there's a deal to be made for the pro-lifers that is advantage babies, advantage pro-lifers. Yeah, that's reasonable. And you guys want him to have the answers to all of these political questions while you're slapping him over the head with the Mar-a-Lago raid and the lawsuits and the Jean Carrolls and so on and so forth. This is what women do to you. This is the affectation of feminism. They want to get the argument. They want to kick the dust up and then ask you to recant the numbers they hold up in front of your face with eyes full of dust. This is the whole modus operandi of the entire liberal mainstream media establishment. This is what they do. This is how they think. This is who they are. This is their strategy. And all of you men at home know it. All of you men at home should recognize it. All of you should be familiar with it. All of you understand. We understand. We understand. We say it, let's just say the quiet part out loud. Bitch is crazy. Bitch is nuts. A lot of these liberal white women are nuts. And a lot of you conservative men are closeted conservatives in your own home because your bitch runs the house. Let's be clear about that. Yeah, you don't like that, do you? I know you don't like that. I'm sorry. If I offended you, if I struck a chord, I apologize. I apologize. But the reality is, there are a few dominant political narratives, and the women's rights one has been a dominant political narrative since the 1960s and well before the suffrage movement. And despite many, many, many well-intended men in politics and business and the community, many of you at the end of the day bend to bend your will around your lust. Yeah, that's right. Your lust, your need, your dependency, right? All of this nasty, nasty business. This goes back to Adam and Eve. This goes back to Adam and Eve. Put your foot down. All you conservatives who are living, all you conservative men who are living closeted in homes with Democrat women, with liberal women, with radical feminist women, grow some balls. That's what Donald Trump did yesterday. They lined it up perfect for him. They laid it out perfect. They rolled out the red carpet. And it's not a fight between men and women writ large in general. Like I said, there are plenty of asshole men and there are plenty of fine women. But we're talking from a cultural and political standpoint. This motif of the posh, yuppie, liberal, metropolitan, omnisexual, wine society, opulent white woman is the dynamic that has pervaded this country for a long time. It's pervaded this country for a long, long time. It's time to say enough. This is how the Andrew Tates rose to because he's speaking to it. Many, many from the manosphere are speaking to it. How does this make any sense? This doesn't make any sense. The whole dynamic between men and women is off, not just in the general public, in the general society or culture, but specifically in relationships. And in those relationships, women have had a disproportionate impact and influence on the decision-making of men who were supposed to be running the country. But they had to closet their views. They had to closet their morals. They had to closet their ethics. They had to closet their perspectives. They had to closet their insight. They had to closet their sacred honor. They had to closet their national honor for LGBTQ honor, right? I guess. I said it before, I'll say it again. What is the leading demographic of American that you can find fanatically, fanatically cheering on the LGBTQ movement? Who is it? Just say it. Just say it. Anytime you see one of these one of these elementary drag shows, one of these elementary school kid, you know, drag stripper shows where they put the 4-year-old in the chair and they have some big black guy who's half naked with a wig and lingerie come and shake his penis in front of a 4-year-old girl. Who are the number one people clapping in the background? We all know. We all know it. And the question is like, let's just be honest. Is the pussy that good? I mean, are you guys willing to trade your freedom for this? Is a real indictment of men. At the end of the day, yes, women are culpable and have to own the role that they play. But this is a real indictment of men. This is a lack of character. This is a lack of sacred honor. It's a lack of self-control. It's a lack of willpower over lust. One of the 7 deadly sins, one of the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins. This is a real indictment of men, especially here in America. Is the pussy really that good? And look, all you cucking, I hope you cucking servers are done taking your victory lap, because for a moment, I need you to stop and listen to this, okay? This is why you can't get hung up in the profanity, because they're going to try and use profanity as a way to commandeer your approval for taking away your freedoms. They're going to use your Christianity, your very lukewarm version of Christianity, where the non-use of profanity becomes the calling card of your Christian standing. And that really is what it's become. If you don't swear you're a good Christian, you're a follower of Christ, get the fuck out of here. Stop. Stop. When you bear witness, when you tell the truth, okay, when you're willing to sacrifice yourself for his name's sake, when you don't take the Lord's name in vain, which has nothing to do with profanity, it has to do with using and wrapping yourself in Christ for an ill-intended agenda, for an ill-intended end result. When you do those things, you can be called a child of God. Blessed is the peacemaker, for they can be called a child of God. Those things make you a Christian. Small random acts of kindness, those things make you a Christian. Loving God, being grateful for your blessings, those things make you Christian. But we go for the most commercialized form of Christianity. We go for the form of Christianity that can be measured for everybody else watching. Watch what I don't say with my mouth. Well, I like what Donald Trump does say. And a lot of you 501c3 Christians have renounced your support of Donald Trump for things just like that. Well, he said, grab him by the pussy. Well, everybody who's ever been in a locker room knows that that's how men talk in locker rooms, number one. We have a hypersexualized society. We just do. Well, we all chose it. We just don't like our leaders to be a reflection of our society. We like our leaders to be some caricature or some fake representation of the ideal society that we have in our head. That's the real indictment of all Americans, right? Is we want our leaders to be an image that's Christ-like because of our own failure to live up to our Christian worldview. I don't need my leaders to be Christ-like. There's only one Christ. I don't need my leaders to be Christ-like. I especially don't need my leaders to be Christ-like in a time as desperate and as dire as these. I just need my leaders to tell the fucking truth. And if my leader needs to tell the fucking truth by using the same fucking vulgar language that most of you use every day, then so be it. Okay. Matter of fact, I appreciate it. I appreciate the candor. Don't treat me like a fucking infant. Treat me like a goddamn adult. Treat me like an adult who lives under a social security number corporation, a tyrannical social security number corporation called America. Treat me like an adult. Treat me like the labor slave, the wage slave that I am. Treat me like the insignificant worker bee and drone that I am. Out in the field, you don't have time to mince words. You don't have time to mince words. It's a real endeavor. It's a time intensive and physical intensive endeavor. It's a warlike endeavor. And more than anything, we're at war. We are at war. Have you ever heard sailor? You know what they say? They cuss like sailors. He swears like a sailor. That comes from. There is no time for the thin veil of civility at sea. There is no time for being cordial at war. It's the most physical and primal thing that comes to your mind. It's what it is. I respect it. And ultimately, he was right. And the reason why they didn't like what he said is because it undermines the real linchpin of the feminist attack on America. They've been weaponized, don't get me wrong. They've been weaponized. They've been put up to it. They've been put up to it by a very, very manipulative group of people. They've been put up to it. Women are the outer bastion. Remember how I always say in the show that the Republican Party is the outer bastion of New World Order? Well, it goes the Republican Party and then women. Actually, it goes the Republican Party, then women, then the LGBTQ, then black people, then Jews, right? That's the historical order of grievance politics. It's not an anti-Semitic comment, just in case you're a fucking jerk off and you can't follow. The order of grievance politics was first the Jews after World War II, then black people in the civil rights movement, and then women and the LGBTQ followed after. And you could actually argue, and then the Republican Party enclosed the whole deal and said, this is the post-World War II democratic liberal order. This is the rules-based order. This is the modern version of technology and science and prosperity that we need to protect the status quo for. That's who the Republican Party's become. And that's another reason why the Republican Party, the women's rights activists, the LGBTQ activists, the black bourgeoisie sellout activists, the anti-Jew, Jewish elite activists, all of them have one common enemy: Donald Trump. I mean, they show you what the lineup is based on their opposition. I don't know what to tell you. I'm equal opportunity in the criticism. It's 5 groups there: the Republican Party and the 4 identity politics and grievance politics demographics. They all don't like Donald Trump. And they don't like him, because he's a threat to the status quo. He's a genuine threat to the status quo. And I said this when the whole thing broke in New York with the contempt. When the whole thing just broke in New York City, and they with the whole deal, whether it was the records down in Mar-a-Lago, whether it was the whole situation in New York City, I knew then, with Stormy and the hush money, I knew then. I said it right here on the show. I said this is going to turn into multiple women coming forward and saying that they were sexually assaulted in New York City. I said it. I said it right here on this very show. In fact, I'm going to go, I think it was only a few episodes back. It was the week that the Stormy Daniels thing broke and the whole hush money indictment deal. So I'm going to go back and find that and post that, short of that. But I said it. And it was very clear to see. And it's not just because it's Donald Trump. It's because this is going to be the double-edged sword that they use to cut out any men who challenge the status quo. That's why they clipped out Cuomo the same way. They'll clip out one of their own. They'll clip out one of their own if they need to, using this very tool. Feminism, radical feminism, women's rights, the natural dynamic between men and women, the natural and now distorted dynamic between men and women, the chaos between men and women, the distrust between men and women, the hostility and animus between men and women. They're going to use it now to divide and conquer. No better tool of division and divide and conquer than men and women. I mean, you're splitting the human population right down the middle. And by way of your hijacking a good majority of the men on this side who can't, don't have the discipline or the willpower to, overcome the natural impulse towards procreation and reproduction and ultimately the lust there. Yeah, grab them by the pussy. Yeah. Yeah, that's how men talk. That's how men talk. 50% of the internet is porn. We live in a jerk-off society. People talk like that. Okay? And even furthermore, it's true. Again, I know in this sort of opulent, posh, yuppie, liberal, metropolitan, omnisexual wine society, the women like to believe that there are no moral or ethical standards around sexuality on the side of women. It's all driven by men. It's all patriarchal, which I think is a huge scam from white women to begin with. I think you could make a strong argument that the entire Western society was built to the benefit of white women. I mean, you live in a culture where uh, shit was built for you. I mean, let's just be honest. Shit was built for you. That's the one thing about Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr. Bill Burr is probably the tip of the spear when it comes to manosphere stand-up comedy and talking about white liberal women and how they co-opted the BLM movement, how they co-opted the woke movement, how they've co-opted all these other movements, and really they were standing right there next to the same white men that they demonize and try and now castrate the whole time. It takes a special type of satanic motherfucker to do that. You were there for the entire deal. You were there reaping the benefits, right? Eating the grapes. Oh, you white women want us to believe that you had so much affection towards slaves during slavery. You had so much affection that if you could have stopped the brutality of the white man, then you would have. Fuck off, Rachel Maddow. Go fuck yourself. Of course, you loved every moment of it. You loved every minute of the power. You love every minute of the power now, and you show us it every day, especially in examples of town halls like the one last night. And even furthermore, many, many women will use sex to get exactly where they want to go in life. And if it's a celebrity, if it's a well-accomplished and successful man, they will throw themselves at his feet. In fact, you can go hear women testify to this very mindset. You can hear women testify of their own participation in this type of social dynamic. Oh, girl, if he's got money, if he's got millions of dollars, if he got a maid, if he's got a butler, if he's got a driver, he can do whatever he wants to me. But when Donald Trump repeats it, it's a problem. This is something you all say about yourselves. Black women, I know, and I know black women for sure. I mean, black women, they talk like this about black men because the successful black man, the financially independent, the financially self-sufficient and stable black man is such a rarity, or is seen as such a rarity in normal cultural thinking in the black community. If a black man has money and financial security, his sexual prospect is unfathomable. It would blow your mind to hear some of the stuff that women say in regards to that man. Hell, he doesn't even have to be rich. In our community, he just has to be handsome. He just has to have a certain way about him, carry himself a certain way. I had women tell me all the time, I could show you the receipts. See, this is the difference. This may be why I resonate with Donald Trump the most. Because I know what it's like to be a man who has an elevated a perceived elevated position in the social hierarchy of sexual selection. I know what it's like to be a man that has a perceived elevated position in the social sexual hierarchy. I had the receipts. I can show you. Spit on me, choke me, slap me. Do what you want. Years and years ago. Oh, when I was in my 20s, just going into playing college basketball, just going into the NBA, this is normal. This is what they lead with. This is what Donald Trump is saying. Sometimes he hasn't told you all of the. Our minds would be blown if we could, peer into, if we could peek into and see all the times that women have led with sex to try and get Donald Trump's attention. Our minds would be blown at some of the stuff they've probably said or done or offered. Our minds would be completely blown. But again, we want our leaders to be Christ-like. There's only one Christ. I just want people who tell it like it is. And even more so, I want people who have seen it how it is. Because people who have actually seen it how it is have a better perspective and insight on how to govern how it is. People who have never seen it can't really speak to it in a way that allows them to govern it with any clarity. And right now, we got a lot of people who make these sexual policies, who make abortion policies, never had a baby, never really had sex like that, never have been the top choice for a woman. Actually, it's their cuck third, fourth, fifth, 10th tier position in the sexual selection process that has preempted them, predisposed them in their dependency of women and their affirmation and affection. We've had too many beta males in charge. I'm just going to say it like it is. And the beta males have cucked to the women that they can't live without. Let's be honest. You got women marching grown men around on chains in the streets. Marching them around like dogs in the streets. Marching them around like dogs in the street. Are you kidding me? Is that not indecent exposure? How can you walk a human being around on a chain? I thought slavery was abolished. Ain't slavery illegal? How can slavery be illegal, but you can be a sex slave? That tells you you live in an over-sexualized, a hypersexualized, perverted, dominating culture. Perversion dominating culture. We live in a perverted culture. But you wanted me to be mad at the one man who has the balls to stand up against the global establishment because he used the word pussy? He used the word pussy, but your average Rachel Maddow can take an overweight, obese white man, put him in latex, and make him walk on all fours with a dog collar in the streets of New York City? The jokes write themselves. The contradictions write themselves. The movement is writing itself. The history is writing itself. The rise of this country is writing itself. The rebuild of this country is writing itself. The victory of we the people is writing itself. The crisis of leadership, the call to leadership, those who answer the call, it's all writing itself. That's why last night it inspired me. It was inspirational. And you're still going to have your black bourgeois sellout hangers on that take this and go, oh, you're bootlicking for the white masters. You people follow the white woman who was moderating the show. I could care less if Donald Trump was white, black, Mexican, Indian. I could care if he was from Australia or Greenland, or if he was from another fucking planet. His race got nothing to do with it. It's what he says. It's what he said that's important. We want the war to end. We don't want to go to a nuclear war. We want our elections to be secure. We want our elections to be secure. We want our border to be closed. The border's out of control. We want a better trade deal with China, if not 100% a divorce from China, and get our manufacturing back on track. Drill, baby, drill. We want to be energy independent. We want to protect our children. We want to protect our children. These are the things that are important. That's what's important. Every time you posh, yuppie, liberal, omnisexual, wine society, white women, try and keep the conversation around gossip, you prove exactly why you don't deserve to be in charge of any fucking thing. Nothing. You people don't you people don't deserve to be in charge of anything. It's not safe to put you in charge of anything. And there's a reason why the country is in the position it's in today, because you cannot deal with the reality of any type of logical and coherent dialogue. You're living in a complete fantasy world. Donald Trump for the win in the CNN town hall. This has been a special edition of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and now powered by TireGet.com. I'm your host, Royce White, in the belly of the beast here in Minnesota, here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I appreciate your viewership and your listenership today and in the future. And as always, the fight continues. Godspeed.